On3 released their ACC coach rankings this week, and we think they got it nearly perfect, but they made a couple of huge blunders. I brought Richie on. We didn't do a pod this week, so we're doing this video together to talk about not only what they got right, but where we think these rankings could have been much better. Let's jump right into it. Number 1 on the list, Dabo Swinney. Number 2, Dave Clawson. And then we stop at number 3 to talk about Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell at number 3, Richie. I don't have a huge problem with this. Obviously, Dabo Swinney at number 1, not super shocking there. Dave Clawson, number 2, I think, I look today, he's had nothing but above 500 seasons at Wake Forest, minus the COVID year, since 2016. Took them to the ACC championship, as good as Florida State's year was last year. It's more than Norvell's done so far. But Norvell at 3, that certainly wouldn't have been where he would have entered this list going into last season. Thoughts on Norvell at number 3, Rich?
Yeah, I think going into last year, I mean, you would have been happy to have him in the top 8, right? Like just in the top half of the coaches in the conference. But I think what he's done in terms of building this roster, the climb, so to speak, right? 3 wins, 5 wins, 10 wins. He's definitely deserved that. And I don't have a problem with Dabo or Clawson being ahead of him, seeing as Mike Norvell's not beat either of them in his career. But I definitely think he's showing he has what it takes. He took over just a complete dumpster fire left over from Jimbo Fisher and Willie Taggart. That combination was just terrible for the tail end of what he took over. And I think, he's showing, I can identify talent, even talent that a lot of schools didn't see in players, see Trey Benson, see Jermaine Johnson, and so on and so forth. And I think he's done a great job building this roster. And I think there's a very good chance that, Florida State has a top 10, top 5 team in the country this year. And Mike Norvell built that from scratch. This thing was burnt down and he had to rebuild it entirely. And I think he's done a phenomenal job doing that so far. But again, I'm not going to put him above Dabo, and I don't have any problem with Clawson being ahead of him given the head-to-head results these past few years.
I think if you would have broken up what Norvell has done into halves, right? And you took the first half being that COVID year and that 0-4 start, right? Just kind of terrible football to start. And then you compared it to what he's done since then, finishing 5-3 in 2021. All 3 of those losses came as underdogs, 2 on the road, 1 at home against a good NC State team without your starting quarterback and about 10 other guys, and then 10-3 last year, right? So you're 15-6 over your last 21 games. Certainly an improvement upon the 3-10 start across his first 13. I think if you're looking at those first few, like you said, going into last year, he'd probably have been bottom 8. What he's done over the last season and a half, season and 2/3, maybe if you want to look at it like that, has been rather impressive. And I think having him at number 3 is really fair. I think fans of Florida State wanted to know, and they believed that Norvell would get this thing turned around. He would get this thing fixed. But it was hard at the beginning to see if that would really come to fruition, right? Jordan Travis taking massive leaps and steps forward, hitting in the transfer portal has been really big for that. But it is neat to see national media now latching on, understanding. Florida State fans would have told you, hey, yeah, we got a top 5 ACC coach, top 3 ACC coach, somewhere in that range. National media now jumping on the bandwagon to say, yes, Mike Norvell is that kind of coach. And I do believe that when Florida State wins 10-plus games this year, when they beat Wake Forest on the road, we will enter going into next year with Norvell at squarely number 2, right behind Dabo Swinney. And that probably isn't up for grabs for quite a while, considering what Dabo has done the last 10 or so years. But if you're second to Dabo, that's really not a terrible place to be. So second to nobody is Garnet and Gold. I want to give them some love. I want to give them a shout out. GarnetandGold.com. If you're an FSU fan, you're watching this, you are hyped up about spring, just 2 weeks away, the spring game. Make sure that you order from GarnetandGold.com to make sure you are threaded up, laced up, and ready to go for that spring game. You can use our code NOSLAW, that's NOSLAW, to save 15% off your order. Code NOSLAW, NOSLAW, to get 15% off your order at garnetandgold.com. The best when it comes to licensed FSU apparel. If you're shopping there in Tallahassee, in-store, you can order ahead online and pick up in-store to save on shipping. Garnetandgold.com. We appreciate them for their support. All right, Richie, when we look at the rest of these rankings, again, Dabo 1, Clausen 2, Norvell 3, fine with that. I got a bone to pick with number 4 here. You've got Mario Cristobal. Again, Jesse Simonton, we'll call him out. The folks at On3 do great work. I was chatting with Newberg the other day. You guys remember him from covering FSU pretty closely for over a decade. Jesse puts Mario Cristobal at number 4 here. I think that's an interesting call. Cristobal 5-7, his first season in Miami. 2 of those 5 wins came out of conference, so comes away with a 3-5 record in the ACC to open up. I don't know about this. Number 4 for Mario Cristobal. An average coach, again, his record overall is literally 500. Not sure that I'm buying Mario Cristobal here as the 4th best coach in the ACC. Richie, what do you think?
It's interesting for sure. I think probably some of his time at Oregon probably plays into this. He did play for a couple Pac-12 championships. I don't know, man. You got several coaches who beat them and some who beat him soundly, ranked below him, who had less talented rosters last year. Number 7, Mike Elko comes to mind. It's very interesting. I think there's some name recognition there that probably comes into play. And, Mr. soon-to-be bankrupt Ruiz probably comes into play as well, because the fact that Miami does recruit really well, and they're only going to continue to recruit well. We'll see what happens in the near future with everything going on, but he's getting players. He's got that name recognition. I feel like people forgot about his time at FIU due to, his brief but successful stint at Oregon. But yeah, last year to me spoke volumes, and I'm entirely in wait and see mode with him. I'm not ready to write him off as the worst in the league, but my goodness, top 4, I don't think so.
The thing that would have been interesting to me is I would have loved to have known what his ranking for Cristobal would have been last year going into the season with the 12th or 14th most talented team in the country that he drugged to a 5-7 record. Just terrible play on the field. You mentioned Elko there, kind of splitting him in the middle at number 8. He certainly could have been ahead of him. I thought Dave Doran, before they had a lot of injuries, is somebody that could have been ahead of him. And so I would imagine they probably had Cristobal around 3 or so, but I think that he only dropped a 1 spot if, after a 5-7 record. I don't know, it just seems a little off. I think you should have Elko a little bit higher. I like Narduzzi there at 5, or maybe you put Narduzzi up there at 4. They beat the heck out of Cristobal. Narduzzi has an ACC championship. I don't know how you have him at 5 right now. Also had to replace Pickett and a bunch of other guys. I think that Narduzzi is a heck of a coach, and I really wouldn't mind seeing him up there. Mac Brown at 6, I think he could be, again, ahead of Cristobal. I don't think he's lost to Cristobal. Actually, has he lost to Miami yet? I think they've been really successful against Miami since Mac Brown has been there. And I think that he's a coach that has, again, been in the ACC championship a couple of times, has produced really well, obviously, with the quarterback position with both Drake May and Sam Howell. Yeah, so I don't know. I think Cristobal should be around the 8-ish position. I think you could move him behind Elko, Mac Brown, Narduzzi for sure, and then you're splitting hairs with him and Dave Doran, right? Well, I mean, Doran's definitely had more success at NC State than Mario's had in Miami, but it feels a little premature to me to put Mario up at number 4. Any other big takeaways from this?
No, I don't think so. I think Mac Brown might be a little overrated, to be honest, because they've had talent, right? They were picked to win the Coastal several years in a row. Sam Howell was a very good college quarterback. A lot of Florida State fans have a sour taste in their mouth still with Sam Howell, but he was a very good college quarterback. Florida State beat them 2 years in a row, both when they were double-digit underdogs. I think when you look at really 9 to even 8 to 14, it doesn't really make a difference. But I definitely would have Elko much higher, Narduzzi higher, Cristobal down below. And I think Dave Doran, like you mentioned, he's just been very consistent. Like they've never overperformed expectations, but have been a very consistent program, year in and year out since he's been there, really. And I don't like the guy on a personal level, so it hurts me to give him credit there. But I definitely think, there's arguments to be made. We'll see what happens this year. If Mario, he had to fire his offensive coordinator who he hired after 1 year. We'll see what happens with them this year. And I look forward to Mike Norvell, as he should overtake Dave Clawson this year. We'll see how that goes with Sam Hartman now at Notre Dame, no longer at Wake Forest. But yeah, it's going to take a while for him to overtake a 2-time national champion in Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, Doran has had some nice years. While Florida State's been down, they've certainly probably been the second best team in the division. 2017 won 9 games. 2018 won 9 games. 2019 they were pretty off, but 2020 they won 8 games in a COVID-shortened year. 2021 they won 9 games. So I think NC State's done some good things. Certainly I'd have him ahead of Cristobal, but interesting to see, interesting to debate. I think that, debates like these are what are fun for the offseason. Norvell at number 3, again, the bold prediction there is that he is number 2 going into next year. So when we do this again next year, Richie, hold me to that. Make sure that I wasn't wrong. And again, Norvell at 2. We'll see if Mario moves up or down or not, or if, maybe he'll move up a little bit with another below 500 season. So that's what we've got. Again, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Comment below. Let us know what you think On3 got right, what they got wrong about this. Where did they miss the mark? At Norvell at 3, you think he's too high there? You think he's too low? Just right. Love to hear your comments. Love to chat with you down below to get your thoughts on it. Make sure that you're supporting our friends over at Garnet and Gold, garnetandgold.com. Again, NOSLAW, NOSLAW, for 15% off. Appreciate their support. We will talk to you guys all soon. Richie, thanks for hanging out, and go Noles.